I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Is the internet messing with our minds when it comes to our bodies? Russia and China go to war, but don't worry, it's just a game. Or is it? Catalonia celebrates its national day, even though it's technically not a nation. And we've got video that shows crime does not pay, especially if you're terrible at it. Now, top of our newsfeed is body image and the internet. Now, how we view ourselves is massively important for our well-being. Having a positive view of oneself, regardless of our only human flaws, is good for our health. But in 2018, we're bombarded with images of beauty and perfection. And because human beings aren't that bright, we bring lots of these damaging ideas into our lives by the choices we make on social media. To explain, here's the always lovely Kim Vanel, #NoFilter.
If you're a young woman and partake in that soul-destroying yet peculiarly addictive behaviour that is comparison, then the internet is your best friend. Just look at all these women who exercised, ate right, and shabam, the perfect body, the perfect life. Wait, hang on a minute. Could all this fruitless comparison be, gasp, doing some damage?
The more exposure to social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, then the more that affected three of our factors, which were thin idealization, objectified body image, which is the way in which people see themselves, and exercise motivation to exercise purely for the purposes of trying to be slim.
Martin Graf's research not only reaffirmed what we already knew, that social media can contribute to body image issues, but also that the amount of time we spend matters. Women who spent over an hour a day on social media were, in his findings, worse off.
Social media is a kind of different medium in as much as it's not like TV. We've seen our friends doing things, so it's a kind of more real exposure to things, if you like.
There is a small but growing amount of clapback, like this from Sia Alexis Cooper, or Diary of a Fit Mommy. She's built a career from her 1.2 million followers, but she decided to get a little real with this photo, telling her followers they don't need to compare themselves because enhancement surgeries are everywhere. Even though a few posts earlier, she'd posted this ad selling protein powder. Now, of course, this is nothing new. Ever since the advent of Photoshop, we've all been warned about the dangers of airbrushing or using waist trainers, or even just the difference a little change in lighting can make. Ta-da! One more thing to take note of as well. Scientists think that it's possible that women who are already a little bit insecure may be drawn to this type of social media. So what's the solution?
We tend perhaps to see the sort of bad side of it, but it's got lots of good sides. People can maintain contacts through social media. People can present ideas which are good through social media. So it's more to do with the way in which we use it rather than saying that it's inherently a bad thing.
Maybe following some body positive grammars or some accounts that promote a healthy reality rather than a filtered photo op, and making sure that when we post, we are real about it too.
All right, let's have a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, a hurricane is heading for the eastern seaboard of the United States. 1.7 million people have been told to evacuate. This is how the President of the United States described what it would bring.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
And as a hurricane, it would also bring tremendous wind. Or does that just come from Trump?
Justice.
An Australian cold case podcast has become very popular and has renewed a police investigation. The disappearance of Lynn Dawson back in 1982 and the stories surrounding it were made into the podcast called The Teacher's Pet by the newspaper The Australian. Now police say they will dig into 4 sites of the property Lynn Dawson once lived at in the suburbs of Sydney. Her husband, Chris Dawson, has long been suspected of being involved in her disappearance, but denies he had anything to do with it. George Weah, the president of Liberia, turned back the years and turned out for the national side last night. He's 51. Now, they were retiring his jersey, he's number 14, that's him in the white, and arranged a game against Nigeria. Now, the former World Player of the Year could not influence the score. Unfortunately, they lost 2-1, but he did play 79 minutes. And this is the latest Nike Just Do It ad, and it's South African athlete Caster Semenya. She tweeted out writing, "Too fast, too bad. I was born to do this." Now, Caster has been controversial in athletics because she's classified as an athlete with differences of sexual development. She's got high levels of testosterone and will be made to reduce her testosterone levels if she wants to run in events that are longer than 400 meters.
Because I was born to do this.
Now, huge military maneuvers have been going on in eastern Russia, and thankfully they're just for practice. And they're being done with China in demonstration of a potential military alliance that NATO could never compete with. And the country's two leaders sealed their burgeoning new friend zone status over drinks and pancakes, naturally.
This is Russia's President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the sidelines of an economic forum. But they've got more on their minds than trade, vodka and caviar. The two countries are conducting military drills together in Russia's Far East. The Kremlin says the week-long exercise is justified because of the aggressive and unfriendly attitudes towards Russia. It's the biggest Russian drill since the end of the Cold War in 1991. Over 300,000 personnel are taking part in activities around Siberia. 36,000 tanks, over 1,000 aircrafts, and up to 80 naval vessels are being used. The war games are being staged at a time of heightened tensions between NATO and Russia. Relations have worsened since Russia annexed the Crimea 4 years ago.
I want to underline that the drills are not directed against other countries and are in line with our military doctrine, which is defensive in character.
China says it's taking part because it's worried about extremist groups in the country's west. But some analysts say the drills are meant to send a message to the United States and its allies that Russia has a powerful friend.
Now, millions of Catalans rallied for their National Day yesterday. That's despite Catalonia not technically being a nation. As this next video will explain, many people want to break away from Spain, but just as many are fine with how things are. The United States has threatened to impose sanctions on the International Criminal Court if its soldiers are charged with the crimes they committed in Afghanistan. Now, people are criticising the country that's run by a reality TV star as it becomes even more isolated.
We will let the ICC die on its own. After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us. We will ban its judges and prosecutors from entering the United States. We will sanction their funds in the U.S. financial system, and we will prosecute them in the U.S. criminal system. No committee of foreign nations will tell us how to govern ourselves and defend our freedom.
Let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. Now, some YouTube accounts belonging to the Syrian regime have been taken down. It came after a news site called Tomo News reported the Syrian regime may be getting ad revenue from its videos, and that would violate US sanctions. Now, despite this being reported, we found that some of the Syrian Ministry of Defense pages were still up, as well as others that had been mirrored and created again. And that action from YouTube comes as the European Union suggests that social media sites could be fined if they fail to take down extremist content within an hour of it going up. The EU say that once a platform is informed of extremist content by authorities, they must take prompt action. They say the first hour of something being up is the most important and where it can do the most damage. And this is the front page of the Australian rag, the Sun Herald. That's the paper that printed the racist cartoon of Serena Williams. They've decided to pretend this is an argument about political correctness, thereby implicitly acknowledging that their drawing of Serena is a racist trope and is not politically correct. They also incorrectly characterise the Serena drawing as satire. It's not satire if it's racist, or not good satire anyway. And it's racist because it follows in a line of historical drawings of black women that were meant to dehumanise black women. There, is that clear enough? Oh, and I wrote to the Australian Press Complaints Commission and they confirmed they've received complaints about the drawing. And this is kind of incredible. An art school from France photoshopped black faces into their brochure before opening their LA branch. Their attempted blackwash was called out by the internet. This is the original photo, and this is the one that's blacked up. The one on the right is blacked up. Now, in Russia, YouTube is a high-level political battleground. An opposition leader called Alexei Navalny had some of his videos removed by a former bodyguard of President Putin. His name is Viktor Zolotov, and he's the director of Russia's National Guard, and he has beef.
I want to tell you that the statement you've made about me is insulting, slanderous, and false. And you know it's not a custom to forgive such things among officers. From olden times, scum like you were punished with a punch in the face and challenged to a duel. Mr. Navalny, why don't we bring back those traditions, at least partially? Let's resolve the matter. I simply challenge you to a fight, in the ring, on the wrestling mat, wherever. I promise to make nice, juicy mincemeat out of you in a couple of minutes.
And last up, we have some funny footage of a fool who tried to rob a store selling e-cigarettes in Colorado, USA. As you can see, the man walks into the shop, drops his gun, panics, runs away while pulling up his trousers. Now, so far, so dumb. And one further detail, it was a replica gun, so wouldn't have worked anyway. Police say they're looking for an embarrassed-looking dude with his trousers halfway down, not carrying a toy gun. And that is it from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.